I see Jim Stengel there. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Don. Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. Didn't realize
Good.
it's going to be so private. I had to
This
change.
one's,
I had
this
to change.
one's, yeah, attendance is a little down because of summertime. Were you on, I didn't see you on Recon this morning.
I was there.
Oh, you were? Okay, so you got to see how Denny plays, right?
Yes.
Okay, I looked quickly. Um, and it was quickly because I was obviously kind of helping him host or being his play-by-play man. So what do you think so far?
Well, a weekend, I think it's great. I wish I would have found it 10 years ago.
It's okay. Well, it wasn't around 10 years ago. So that recon was, it's been around about a year. Gary Keller and wanted to have some daily real estate conversations, led by Denny. And, so therefore the name Recon came out. So, and it's pretty much 90 to 120 people a day. This one is a different format. This is deeper, where if Denny were on the call, he would be allowing people to go deeper into the conversations and the presentations and more analysis. Whereas at Recon, it's 90 seconds, 2 minutes, rapid fire, go, go, go. And he's flying today, so I am the host. So I'll give it another minute or two.
Well, now I'm intimidated.
For what reason would you be intimidated?
I'm out of shape, brother.
Well, you're back in the right place to get back in shape, right? Okay, okay, well, it's a few minutes after 10 o'clock my time, Scottsdale. So is that Dr. Lauren Goodwin there, disguised as Sherry? There you are. Might want to go in and change your name, Dr. Lauren, if you can. So welcome to Denny's Mastery Call. It's Friday and Denny is flying right now. So I am Don Aldrich and I am hosting Mastery today. So good to see some familiar faces up there, even though the names may be incorrect. So yesterday we had the privilege of Denny was here in Arizona and he stopped by a little gathering that we had with his wife, Kristen Cole, who I work with, and the Kristen Cole team. And he did a little presentation at the end of the day for about an hour. And I don't have his visuals and all that, but I did take some pictures and I did take some notes, and I'm just going to go through it. And again, this is not a seminar, right, or a lecture. So if anybody wants to, please interrupt me, have a question, put your hand up. This is a two-way street. So Danny started it out with a picture of a I can't think of any other word, but a gypsy, a fortune teller with very deep, dark, mysterious eyes, with her hands around the globe, and inside the globe it said interest rates. And he said what he wants us to start doing is he wants us to quit predicting the future and start focusing on what we can control. Don't predict the future, focus on what you can control. And Denny, with his tattoos, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Well, the tattoo, he said, is get it tattooed on your hand that says uncertainty is our friend, because there's a lot of uncertainty out there in the marketplace and people don't know what to do. with August 1st and August 17th and interest rates and all that. And that uncertainty is creating chaos. And inside that chaos, there's huge opportunity for those of us who focus on what we can control. So tattoo, uncertainty is our friend. And what what are people focused on right now? What's their number one concern? What are they most uncertain about? This is the audience participation part.
Interest rates.
Bingo. Thank you, Margot. Looked like Dr. Lauren was coming off too. Interest rates would be probably number one, right? And as potential clients talk to us about interest rates, we don't know whether it's going to be 7%, 6%, 5%. Now, here's what he said we should know. And I've been guilty of this too. Sometimes I've had a buyer say, you know, what would be my payment at 7%? And it's really easy to deflect and say, well, let's talk to our lender, right? Because we want to be exact. But we should have a basic understanding of if someone's going to borrow $500,000 at 7%, we ought to be able to say that is going to cost you X, right? And not leave it up to a lender to come up with that basic information. So can anybody take a guess without going to your calculators? That's a $500,000 mortgage at 7%. Any guesses on what the payment would be?
3,300.
Right on, 3326, right? So people are hoping to have interest rates lower, whether they're going to 6.8, 6.75, 6.5, 6.25, 6. We don't know where they're going, but what we do know is what the interest rate, what the payment would be at whatever interest rate it's going to be. Remember, there was a slide he put up the other day that the Fed at one point said that they were going to, this was in the past, right? That the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates 6 times in 2024, right? How many times have they done it so far this year? 0, right? So if you're a buyer and you're reading that headline from the Federal Reserve that they're going to drop rates 6 times in 2024, well, what are you going to do? Dr. Lauren?
They're gonna try to wait, but it's not going anywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, if you knew there were 6 rate drops coming in the next 6 months and you're a buyer, are you going to buy at the first one? Are you going to buy the second one? You're going to wait till the 6th one? You're going to wait. You're going to wait. And here we are 7 months into 2024 and they're still waiting. So what we can control though is we know what the interest rates and that payment would be. So what we want to do is when people are talking interest rates, let's switch it to the dollars and say, gosh, Dr. Lauren, you know, at $500,000 and 7%, yes, your P&I is roughly $3,326. And you're waiting for it to get to 6 or 5.9. Do you know how much the payment would be at 5.9% on 500,000?
No.
I didn't know off the top of my head either. And did I write it down? Yes, 2965. So, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you're waiting a whole year for the interest rates to come down 1%. At $500,000, it's $361 a month. At $361 a month, you could be missing out on an opportunity to buy a house at today's prices without competition. And again, if you break it down to the ridiculous, $361 a month is $12 a day. So just a little lesson here. When people are panicking about interest rates, switch it to the monthly payment. And well, what do you hope? At what interest rate would you come back into the market for? At what interest rate would you buy this home if you like it? Well, I would buy it 6%. Okay, well, let's figure that out. So the difference in dollars to you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, between 7% and 6% is roughly $361 a month, $12 a day. How much do you spend at Starbucks? Right? That's 2 cups of coffee a day, maybe, because Starbucks prices are going up like everything else. So again, you break it down to the ridiculous and say, do you really want to continue waiting and missing out on opportunity here? Because guess what? When that rate does change, do you think you're going to be the only buyer sitting on the sidelines that's coming back into the market? Well, let me answer that for you. The answer would be a big fat no. And now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you're competing for the same house with other buyers. But before that happens, that seller could be very agreeable to you in lowering their price, giving you good terms, maybe even doing more repairs for you, and doing more for you because you're the only buyer in the game. But waiting at only $361 a month at $12 a day, you're waiting for all the other buyers to come in and compete with you, and that's only going to drive the price up and the terms kind of go away, and then maybe the repairs are on you. So can you see how that's the cost of waiting? I don't want to lecture people. We just want to have discussions with people. How does that benefit you? How does waiting help you? So always switch it to the payment. Any questions, comments on that segment? Okay, so the next segment is, and we're going to take,
Don, actually, I do have a question.
go ahead, Jim.
So are you suggesting that we keep a mortgage calculator or something handy? Is that, because you're not.
Yes.
I just made a pretty lucky guess to get that,
It
but
was a good guess, but that comes from years of experience. You've been in the business a long time, Jim. Again, I'm not a lender, right? But I've been guilty of saying, well, I'm not sure, so let's talk to the lender. Well, then it just kind of knocks you down as the expert and say, hey, Dr. Lauren, I'm not a lender, but here, let's look at a chart. Maybe you want to make up something, a cheat sheet. Your lender can do it for you, and you can carry it with you. And if you don't, learn to use a mortgage calculator. So you could say, okay, well, at 450 and 7%, it's this, and at 450 at 6%, it's that. It's a difference of $280. Do you really want to lose out on this house for $280 a month? So we don't have to become lenders. Not asking you to learn every aspect about the lending institution, but we are the experts. We ought to have at least a grasp of what's wrong. Gosh, I go to the doctor, I got a temperature. Okay, well, let's go through a couple of tests that I can give you right now. We don't need to operate, right? We don't need to go to the surgeon. Let's do a couple of tests. So yes, have a mortgage calculator, or better yet, just have a lender give you different scenarios at 7, 6.75, 6.5, 6%, and run out a couple of prices. Just put it on the sheet and you can pull it right out. And then they can see that. And that's also something you could email to somebody. So does that answer the question, Jim?
yes, thank you.
Sure. Okay. So he gave us this exercise and he gave us 60 seconds. So if everybody has a pen and paper, obviously if you're driving, you can't play. So there are 7 reasons that he came up with as to why a seller should be on the market now. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds just to start writing as fast as you can. 7 reasons why a seller should be on the market. So we're going to have some silence for 60 seconds. Ready? Go. 7 reasons why a seller should be on the market. Well, why should I sell now, Mr. or Mrs. Realtor? Well, may I share with you 7 reasons why it's advantageous for you to be on the market now? 30 seconds. And there may be more than 7, but these were his 7, so that's what we're going to go with. Time. Okay. So let's hear from some of you. What did you come up with?
I came up with only 3, but I have in our market at least, there's still low inventory. So if you put your home on the market, you're gonna have less competition. I put right now for us, we're having a lot more buyers out there as the school year is starting to approach. So you have more opportunity with more eyes, with more buyers out there. And then I also put in here that it may benefit them to get on the market before the August 1st shift in the industry where all those changes come into play. So those are the 3 that I got.
Good. Good. All right. All correct. Anybody else? Anything different than what Dr. Lauren had?
Yeah, we know what the market is today. We don't know what it's gonna be.
Yep. That's a big one.
Presidential election coming up.
Yeah. Talk about chaos. Or uncertainty. Anybody else?
Home prices could go down. I've seen a lot of price drops.
Mhm. In our market, in the greater Phoenix, Scottsdale market, over 50% of the inventory has had at least one price adjustment. At least one, and that's about 18,000 inventory, which is really nothing for a city of 5 million people to have 18,000 homes on the market. We've been there for about a year. I mean, it's gone up a little bit, but not much. And by seller's definition, by real estate definition and population, that's a seller's market. There's only 18,000 homes for sale. But because buyer demand is so low, that's the stagnation that we're experimenting. So anybody else before I go into Denny's 7 reasons? All good answers. Okay. So before I go into his 7, he asked this question on recon. Well, no, I'm going to wait. I'll come back to that. And if I forget, please remind me, Dr. Lauren. So the 7 reasons that he came up with, and I had some of yours. Number 1, inventory is growing. So ding, ding, ding. What's that game show? The game show. Give us 7 reasons. The most popular answer is
Family Feud.
Family Feud. That's right. It used to be Richard Dawson. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
Dr.
it's gonna-
Lauren, ding, ding, ding. You got the number 1 answer. Yeah.
Sweet.
Ding, 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 ding. All right. Number 2, less upward or more downward pressure on price. So again, prices are declining. Number 3, more competition as sellers enter the market. Obviously, as inventory grows, more competition. Number 4, buyers' motivation is decreasing as more uncertainty creeps into the market, and affordability is decreasing with higher interest rates. Number 5, fewer multiple offers and bidding wars. Number 6, why a seller should put on the market now? Interest rates are up. And number 7, here's a big one. Selling today may be better than selling tomorrow. Which leads us into the buyers. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, go ahead and give me some answers. When's the best time for a buyer to buy?
Now.
20 years ago.
Well,
Right, yesterday.
according to Recon, when when sellers are uncertain.
Yes, yep, all those answers are right.
So I
Sellers
was
are on-
listening, Don.
Yes, you were. And a typical agent answer is now, but that now might be because of us, right? I gotta make my car payment, so you gotta buy this house now. The best time for a buyer to buy a home is when sellers fear that tomorrow is going to be worse. When sellers have bought into, when sellers believe that tomorrow for them is going to be worse, that's the best time for a buyer. So, flip the coin. We talked about the 7 reasons why sellers should be on the market now. 7 reasons for a buyer to buy now. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Go. 7 reasons why a buyer should buy now. They're coming into your open houses. They're calling off signs. Well, we're going to wait. Oh. If it were to your advantage, if it were to your financial advantage, if we could have a discussion about that, Jim, or is it Arthurine Johnson? Did I pronounce it correctly? If we could have a discussion, we could show you how it might be a financial advantage to buy now. Would you want to know about it?
Yes.
Awesome. So would Einstein. So I'm never the smartest guy in this room. Always learning. Okay. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Okay. 7 reasons why a buyer should buy now, or any reasons why a buyer should buy now. What'd you come up with? Anybody?
Price certainty.
Okay.
Well, I have kind of this, it was similar for the seller side, but because we want buyers to get out there before the August 1st shift, where they might have the responsibility of paying their buyer's agent directly out of pocket.
Yep.
I
Did
also
you
have
find
it.
it? Go ahead.
No. What'd you say?
To say, did you find it a challenge to come up with 7 reasons or 7 different reasons from a seller? I did.
Yeah.
They were pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So listen to this. So the 7 reasons buyers should buy now. Inventory is growing. You have more choices. Number 2, less upward, more downward pressure on price. Pricing is to your advantage. Number 3, less competition as buyers leave the market. Interest rates go up. If they go up a little bit more, there's going to be fewer and fewer buyers. So if you can afford a house at 7.25%, you're going to have less competition than if interest rates are at 6.8 or 7. Number 4, why should you buy now? Sellers' motivation is increasing with, as Jim said, with the uncertainty. Sellers' motivation is increasing. They're going to do you better, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Number 5, you're not probably going to be in a bidding war. Probably don't have to worry about multiple offers, which is going to be a calming effect on price. Interest rates are up. Same reason. Number 7, and buying today may be better than buying tomorrow. Remember, quit predicting the future. We're not fortune tellers, but we can come up with reasons why a seller should sell now or a buyer should buy now. And he said this before, sellers right now, buyers right now think it's 2008 and sellers think that it's 2022, right? Here's the buyer, here's the seller, right? And a seller right now with that mindset, they're thinking, gosh, 2 years ago, I could have sold it for $1 million. Now I'm selling it for $850. Okay. But 6 years ago, that house was 500,
Right.
475. I mean, that's happened in our markets. So a seller's mentality is, well, I had all this money. Yes, you did have all that money. Now you have less. And it's not your money. It's the market's money, right? It's monopoly, it's play money. And it's kind of the analogy that, hey, Mr. Seller, you ever go into a casino? You go on a run, you go in with $200, and at midnight, that $200 is $4,000. Do you quit? Maybe you don't. That's 2022, right? Well, now it's 2 a.m. in the morning, 2 hours later, you've had a few more drinks, you're getting tired, maybe not making the same decisions at the blackjack table. Now that $4,000 is only $3,500. But are you still ahead on the evening?
Right.
If you started with $200 and you still had $3,500, you're still ahead.
You're still
right?
ahead. Yeah.
Quit, get the heck out of there, go to bed, right? So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, 2022 was, you had $4,000 on the blackjack table. You have less chips now. And it looks like the dealer is showing blackjack. Get out if you really desire to move. So again, you can play with that analogy with people to say, compared to 6 years ago, you still have more money here. How much more do you want to lose? And here's a quote. You may want to, I wrote this one down. Sellers waiting are waiting for less. How long do you want to wait? Sellers
Can you
waiting.
repeat that?
Yep. Sellers waiting are waiting, not wading in the stream, right? My New England accent slurs it. Sellers waiting are waiting for less. So, Mr. Seller, tell me, here's the market. Tell me when, where's the low? Tell me when to stop. Bottom line is, we don't know. We don't know when the bottom is. We don't know when the top is. But certainly waiting, you're going to get less today than you would have gotten even 4 months ago. Can I get a head nod or a thumbs up or an agreement on that? Yep. And again, we don't know. So number one, going back to the very first statement, quit predicting the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what the solds are. That's the history. You know what's current. That's what's going on right now. But if you predict the future, good luck. Good
Right.
luck. Because they're gonna come back and make you pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
So number two, and this one caught me by surprise. Denny, the number two quit listing property. And I was sitting right in the front row. And again, there were only like 8 of us. Quit listing property. Before I could raise my hand, he said,
List the seller.
Start listing property owners.
Right.
You got that, Dr. G.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah, quit listing property. We're dealing with people. So, Arthurine?
Yeah, please explain.
Yeah, well, when you're looking at just listing property is owned by who?
People.
People, right? So start listing property owners, start listing people by having conversations with them versus predicting what your property is going to sell for. Okay, you're working with people. And anybody know what the most crowded state in the nation is?
The state of denial.
Ding, ding, ding. You got it again. Number one answer. It was the only answer. I wrote down the state.
Class.
I said I wrote down the state of confusion.
That's a
Which-
good one. I like that. I like that.
That might have been number 2.
There you
but
go.
state- You know, the Nile is a river in Africa, but denial is what's going on in this market, right?
Right, right.
So, as he was talking about, the pendulum swing, right? And it kind of like when I was doing this pendulum swing, and right now it's swinging this way. We don't know how far it's going to go up, and we don't know where it begins to come back down. But at some point, there's that gap, and that's where the sellers are 2022 and the buyers are 2008. So other notes I wrote down, let me just go through some of the pictures. Any other? Yes. So getting back to quit predicting the future, 3 things we know for sure. Number 1, you know what's sold, and you got to communicate that to the people. That's history. You're a history teacher, right? You're not predicting. You're not a soothsayer. You're a teacher. What has sold? You're an economist. This is what is sold. Number 2, what's active? You know what's for sale. That's current. And number 3, market trends. Number 1, what is sold? Number 2, what is active? And number 3, market trends. What's going on? Whether it's interest rates or, as Denny says on Recon, hey, Dr. Lauren, since you've been on the market, there's 17 homes that have sold in your neighborhood, and here's what they've sold for. Based on that, where do you want to start? Market trends. Not, well, what do you think is going to happen after the election? What do you think is going to happen next week? Stay away from that. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. So, and here's something else I wrote down. There is never a shortage of buyers out there. There is a shortage of realistic sellers. There's buyers for every house at any price. Is the seller going to be realistic enough to price it to attract that buyer? So never a shortage of buyers. There's just a shortage of realistic sellers. And what we want to do, last point under number 2 of quit listing property and start listing property owners, understand motivation, Authorine. Understand the motivation. So I understand, Authorine, that you want to move to a bigger home. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1, you don't have to move. You can put up with this crowded house forever. 10, you got to be out of here before school starts. Where are you on the market? And just play with me, Authorine. So where would,
Yeah, 8.
so you're an 8. That's pretty
Mhm.
motivated.
Mhm.
And you want to come from curiosity. So, Authorine, what would move that needle from an 8 to a 10?
The stress of not packing everything up, that frightens me.
Okay, good answer, right? Or they might just say, by the start of school, I can't put up with another school year of 4 kids in 2 bedrooms and the chaos of now I got to take one to high school and one to middle school and one to kindergarten. I can't do that from this house distance. And so always ask, what would make it a 10? Jim Stengel and I learned this a long time ago with another mentor when it came to sellers and asking in a different concept. Maybe I'm over the phone with them. So Jim, play along with me. So Jim, I haven't seen your house yet. I'm looking forward to seeing it and meeting you and your wife on Thursday at 6 o'clock. Tell me a little about, you've said it's a 4-bedroom, 2 baths. I can see it's 2,300 square feet. On a scale of 1 to 10, Jim, condition wise, 1 being it's a total rehab, it's got to get blown up and destroyed, and 10, you remodeled it last night. Where would you say your house is right now?
Well, probably about a 6.
About a 6. Excellent. So tell me, Jim, what would make it a 10?
A new kitchen.
Okay, a new kitchen. Awesome. And they might say things like, well, the paint's a little tired, carpet is a little worn, I need to refinish this, that would probably make it, that would boost it up. They're gonna give you real reasons, and so going in to that appointment, you're gonna know kind of what to expect before you see it. And in their minds, it might be a 6. But Joe Barnes, you ever walked into a house thinking that they told you it was a 6 and it was really like an 8.5? You ever had that happen? Yeah, got a heads up. And of course, the reverse is true. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a 10. And you walk in and it's so bad. Your eyes are burning. You got to throw your clothes away when you go home because you smell so bad, right? We've all
Got
had
one of those
those.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, join the club, right? They're sitting across, chain smoking, as you're listing the property, and you're like, oh my God, I got one of those right now. But here's another answer, and Jim, I don't know if you remember this. So Joe, if you can come off mute, I know you're driving. So when I ask you that, tell me it's a 10, that you just remodeled it, and okay. So Joe, on a scale of 1 to 10, blah, 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 where would you place your house?
Oh, this has got to be an 11.
He took my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
It's-
It's a 10. It's a 10.
It's a
Yeah.
10. It's a 10. Awesome. That's great. So Joe, tell me, what would make it an 11?
Well, we could gild the counters with gold and blah, blah, blah.
Right. So you still may get, they think it's a 10, Arthurine, but when they say, what would make an 11? Well, I probably should mow the lawn, or maybe I should paint that back bedroom, whatever. You're gonna get a little nugget when someone says, "Wow, it's a 10." Awesome. What would make an 11? Well, we just remodeled it last night. We'll put gold counters down. Okay, great. So anyway, I kind of took a left-hand turn there. Sorry. But when we come to motivation, that's the conversation we want to have. So, tell me, what's your motivation to get out of this house? Where do you stand? Well, as Arthurine said, I'm a 7. Okay, good. That's pretty motivated. Tell me, what would make it a 10? And then you may get more pain down the road that you can latch onto if she really wants to price it so high that you just that she's probably not going to get much activity. So it just gives you more information. So understand motivation. Okay, so number 1 was quit predicting the future. Number 2 was quit listing the property. Number 3 was quit setting prices. And any of you that have been on recon, you know that to be true. You set the price, it's your fault when they're not getting it. So we see that we hear and play with this almost every day on recon. Somebody falls into that trap, right? So don't, as Denny says, don't attach your fingerprints, your thumbprint to a price. What we do want to set is expectations. So again, Joe, you're saying that if I agree to 750, are you ready to start with me tonight? Joe says yes. Awesome. Knuckle bump. Now, may I share with you what's going to happen next? One of 3 things is going to happen next. Number 1, we're going to have no showings, no offers, no activity whatsoever. Number 2, we have some to a few showings, maybe an offer or 2. And number 3, the property sells. And that's the fishing sheet that Denny talks about so often. But again, quit setting prices. Don't attach your fingerprints. Do set expectations. And you can get caught on this. I almost got caught about a week ago where a seller was not readjusting their price. And then in a text, he tried to trap me to say, well, what price is it going to sell at? Nope, I didn't fall for it. We started, in just to give you a real life scenario, it was a property that's expired twice with 2 other agents. They said they had to get their equity out, and I proposed okay, come in with a very, very, let's go way down to this price to create a bidding war, right? And I can't believe it didn't happen. We didn't get a bidding war. Unbelievable. So then the seller, because he knows more than me, raised the price back up to a price I knew it was not going to sell at. And guess what? We've been dead in the water since we've done that. So in conversations in a text with him just a week ago, I said, okay, you know, one thing's for certain, there's nothing happening at your price. And then he tried to trap me to say, okay, well, at what price will we get something sold? And I said, here's the two things I know. I went back to the history. The bidding war price, yes, that I set on it before I knew this, Joe, didn't work. That didn't work. And you're right. And your price isn't working either. So here are the two prices that didn't work. The answer is somewhere in between. Where do you want to go? And so I let him pick the price, and he readjusted it $10,000. Because the truth is, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to sell at. I'm not predicting the future anymore. But I do know, as Denny said yesterday, you know, somebody said they were role playing with him and they were at 750. Well, how about we just, they use the word drop, right? Which we don't want to use. We want to use readjust. The audience used the word drop. We're going to drop the price to 745. And Denny said, well, if you were going car shopping and it was a $60,000 car and it was sitting there month after month after month, and the dealership dropped it $500, do you think that would make a difference? Probably not. So at 750 to go to 745 after 90 days, do you really think that's going to make an impact? Is that going to land in the pond? It's a step in the right direction. Danny said a few times, it is a step in the right direction, but realistically, do you think it's enough? So let them choose the price. You never want to attach your name, your fingerprint to a price. Again, quit predicting the future. Because if you say a price and it doesn't work, that's on you. And they're going to blame you. And then they're going to go to another real estate agent and probably go to the price that you suggested before, and then it sells. Let them pick the price. So again, quit predicting the future, quit listing property, and quit setting prices, but do set expectations. So, Arthurine, if you only want to adjust the price down, if you only want to reposition, sorry, caught myself. If you only want to reposition by $5,000, what are you going to do based on the fact that you're a 7 now and you're going to be a 10 in 2 months? What do you want to do if the market says no to that price?
Well, I guess I can lighten, like you suggested, and remove the green carpet. I'm willing to do those. I'm willing to make it more presentable to the buyers.
There you go. You have your answer. Of course, then you could say, gosh, is there an opportunity to do that now versus waiting? And then you've got the days on the market working against you. So again, set the expectations that, guess what? This cigarette smell is not coming out of this house. What are you going to do if everybody hates it? And that's exactly where we are. So can't predict the market. You can't predict the future. And Denny used this analogy that, again, he's come from Florida where there's a lot of fishing. If you went out with a fishing guide who has fished and taken people out for 20 years in that area, do you think they know where to go, where the fish are, and what bait to use, and at what time of day to use that bait? Do you think they know that better than some tourist coming in saying, I want to go fishing? Right? They're hiring a guide. That's what you're doing. We are the fishing guides. We know the market. We can't tell them. We can only set the expectations. So again, Arthurine, what will you do if for some reason the fish aren't biting? You know, the fish should have bought when we came on third time, really $50,000 lower than their previous agents had them. The fish should have bought, but guess what? They didn't. And I was wrong. And I said that to the sellers. I was wrong. The market shifted faster on that property than I thought it did. So I would have been better off. I wouldn't have had to battle as much. What will you do if the market says no? do you mind if I share with you what happens next? Right? Because we don't want to get into being the slinky, right? Chasing. And I know I'm dating myself, but I had a slinky back in the 60s for Christmas, right? You can't catch the slinky from behind. It's just gonna, it's gonna go. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we have to get ahead of the slinky. That's probably not gonna work with the millennial sellers you have, but it will definitely work with anybody that's been around for a while. They're gonna remember the slinky. We gotta get ahead of the slinky instead of going chasing the market down. Get ahead of the slinky. I can see the smile on your face, Arthurine.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's nothing better than a visual aid, so we might all need to go buy a slinky
That's right.
for the meals. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe a picture of Captain Kangaroo, right? Joe Barnes, you probably don't even know who Captain Kangaroo was.
I've heard of this guy.
Yeah,
Hey, Don, can I piggyback off what you're saying right now?
absolutely, please.
So the three outcomes have been very helpful in my listing presentations. And one thing I've added to them I think is helpful is instead of me telling them that this will or will not work, the question is, are you ready to accept the risk? And if they say yes, great. It doesn't matter what we price it at. And if they say no, what should the price be? Well, I don't know. Then we get to have a deeper conversation about what the price they think the price should be. And as soon as they say I'm ready to accept the risk, the conversation's done.
I had not heard that one. I'm writing that one down. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, are you ready to accept that risk? Good. Then we're in it together. We're jumping out of a plane together, and there's one parachute. We're either going to share it or we're going to fight over it, right?
Yeah. And if they're okay with that, great, let's do it. Find out in a week or 2 weeks or a month, but let's do it.
It doesn't make you wrong. We went into this together. Do you recall? We went into this together. That's awesome, Joe. Thank you. Great contribution. Let's see. Yes, and when we go into that, and again, that fishing sheet, Denny can get that to you. That's part of recon. That's something I use in all my presentations, and we get them to initial it. And if you can take a picture of it, so you have it in your phone, before every week when you call your sellers, you text it to them, because they're not going to have it with them. They may not even remember it, or they'll vaguely remember it. But if you could text that to them and say, hey, Arthur, it's 4:00 on Thursday. It's time for our call. Do you have your fishing sheet handy? She's going to say, no. Okay, that's all right. I just texted it to you. Can you open up your phone? And they're looking at their initials. So there's outcome number one, where we haven't had much activity and certainly no offers. There's outcome number two, where we've had some decent activity and maybe one low offer. And number three, we've sold it. Well, we know we haven't sold it. So where do you think we are? We're letting them pick. Are they at number one or are they number two? And if they're at number one, it's a very graphic. It shows bait being lowered. Where do you want to do? Well, I don't want to do anything. Okay, so you're willing to accept the risk of keeping the bait up here at this level and just sitting out here in the boat getting sunburnt, right? I like that, Joe. I like that. Are you ready to accept that risk? How long do you want to stay there? Based on the fact that you're a 7, you want to, and you said in a 10, by Labor Day, you're going to be a 10. We've had no activity here we've been level 1 here for 2 or 3 weeks. What do you want to do? Well, I think I'll stay. Okay, so you're ready to accept the risk of staying right where you are. And Arthurine, if you've done if you continue doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So what's going to be different? So when you make those, though, I did that out of order. Before you do that, you want to call and say, I'm ready to give you the market update. Again, going back to, here's how many properties have sold in your price range since we've been listed. Here's the marketing update. and we can all go into the demographics that show how many hits we've had on them on social media and how many people have actually looked at it. We've all got through MLS. Use that and don't talk about what you've done, meaning, well, I've held an open house, I've held an open house or two. They're going to say, great, well, you need to hold more. Or I've, made so many phone calls. Well, you need to make more phone calls. Talk about the marketing results. Here's what the market is doing. And the classic line there's, so the marketing is working because we've had 792 people look at it online, yet we've only had 4 people save it and we've only had 1 showing. So how many more 792 people do we need to look at it on social media before it results in a contract? We're a long ways away, don't you think? So again, market update. Here's what's going on. Show the results, proving that the marketing is working. And the third M, make a decision. Stay where you're at, or you want to reposition. So quit predicting the future, quit listing property, and quit setting prices, set expectations. That's the end of my notes. It probably, and again, that was the Reader's Digest version of Denny's presentation. I didn't have all his visuals, but I think he's going to bring some of them to Recon. Oh, here's one cool thing. And I hope I can demonstrate this. So he showed a picture of a pool table and said, does everybody recognize this? And of course, all 8 of us said, yeah, of course, the pool table. Have you all played pool? Yeah, I mean, who hasn't played pool, right? And one of the guys next to me is a pool shark. Actually, he plays competitively. Then he showed a picture of a young lady laughing, kind of holding a pool cue, getting ready to hit a ball. And there was a male next to her. It didn't show his face, but his fist was down, like kind of on the table, like he's kind of, sitting on the table, and there was a beer right there, and she's laughing, right? And then he said, and before he said that, I mentioned, he said, how good a pool player do you think she is? Now, unless she's hustling, she's an amateur, right? And then before he did that, I said to the Archie sitting next to me, I said, have you ever heard of the Black Widow? And the Black Widow is a really infamous female pool player who always wears like a black dress, and she's a stone cold killer when it comes to pool. And he brought up a picture of her, and she was flat out on the table. I mean, her hand was positioned differently than the young lady's. She was down here like this. I mean, the look on her face, she was totally concentrated. There were people in the background. I mean, it was a total, right? I'm going for the kill. And he said, which pool player do you think is better? And then he went back to the young lady and pointed out that her position with her hands was totally bad. She's just hitting a ball trying to get a date, right? Or vice versa. Whereas the Black Widow, she's playing for money, right? Who's the better pool player? If you wanted to stake your life on who's going to sink the shot, who you're going to go with, right? He says, do you think people sell? It was a great contrast. Do you think there are realtors that have this approach to playing pool, or do you have this approach? Which one would you rather be? So it gets back to skills and practice. And remember, perfect practice doesn't make perfect. It only makes permanent. Right? Shaking your head, yes. I'm sorry. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice only makes permanent, whether it's right or wrong. Perfect practice makes perfect. And amateurs practice until they can't, until they can't get it right. Pros practice until they can't get it wrong. So this is the perfect practice. That's what this mastery is about. That's what Recon is about.
Don.
Yes, ma'am.
Michael Jackson said, pros practice until there's no other way to do it but that way.
That's right.
Right. So they can't get it wrong because there's no other way to do it because it's so perfect.
It's a spontaneous reflex. Spontaneous reflex. I was a tennis pro back 45 years ago, and I've told this story. There was a interview with Bjorn Borg, who had hit an unbelievable shot at Wimbledon. It didn't win the match, but it was a big turning point. And the interviewer said, "How did you hit that shot?" And Bjorn Borg, and I can't do a Swedish accent, he goes, "I don't know." And the reporter couldn't get it. That, what do you mean you don't know? And Borg just said, "I've hit that shot in practice 1,000 times. I've never had to hit it in a match. And when it came out, I just reacted." So spontaneity is a conditioned reflex, right? Michael Jackson had conditioned reflexes that he was going to belt that song out, whether the lighting fell off, didn't matter. He was going to belt out Thriller no matter what, right? It was an unconditioned reflex. It was spontaneous because he perfectly practiced it. The old 10,000 hours. So is it worth that? Are we all going to be in the business a year from now? Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. That's a yes, right? So why not invest time in recon 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, as best you can, and mastery for an hour? It's going to elevate you. And again, other agents out there are in chaos. They don't know what to do with the NAR settlement. There's so much uncertainty. They're panicking, and that's going to be unbelievable opportunity for those of us that can. Here's how we're going to get through this. Improve our skills, know how to speak with people, ask better questions, listen for the answers. Right? Never tell somebody, "Hey, may I share something with you that may be of interest to you?" Yeah, sure. Then you proceed to tell them what you wanted to in the first place. Versus if I came on here today and said, "Folks, let me tell you what I learned today." That's repulsive. That's a parent. That's a boss, right? That's not somebody you want to work with and for. Let me tell you something. Sometimes a coach has to do that, right? Let me tell you something. But it's a little bit more impactful. I say, "Gosh, based on what I see, may I share something with you that may be of interest to you?" And then you proceed to tell them. So Joe Barnes said that as he was walking. May I share something with you versus tell? Are you ready to accept that risk? So we're just about to wrap up. Any final thoughts on that? I appreciate you all bearing with me. This has helped me because the teachers learn more than the students. So anytime I get a chance to be a guest host here, I'm happy to do it because I learned this better exploring it today with you, ladies and gentlemen, than I did yesterday taking notes. So thank you. Mastery, Denny is supposed to be back next Friday. So I'll be in the audience with you, and go out there, have some fun. And thank you for playing. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don,
Thanks,
for your time.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
My,
Doc.
my pleasure. Jenny, thanks for
Thank
helping.
you.
Have fun.